All right. Let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is These Devils Know. And pretty much, this was the title that came to me earlier as I was watching the brother Yashalom from the New York camp video he had put up, where he had these Edomites speaking about Bitcoin and these digital currencies. And the interviewer was asking the interviewee, do you think that this Bitcoin or this digital currency, something along those lines, is going to disrupt gold or make problems for gold or something along those lines? And the other guy said, well, that's a good question. But he said, no. He said, because gold has been money for 5,000 years. And anyone that has studied the history of man knows that the history of man only goes back about 5,000, almost 6,000 years, back during the time of Adam, the Adamites and all of that. And when he said that, I was like, wow, that's heavy. And that's when it came to me, these devils know. And even Eustace Mullins, mentioned even Eustace Mullins, which was a historian. He passed away, I believe it was back in 2010. He even was being interviewed by Bobby Lee, and pretty much Bobby Lee asked him, how far back does your research go to? He said, well, it's in the Library of Congress. And he said his research goes back 5,000 years. And that's why the scriptures speak about science, falsely so-called, because the history as we know it is not no millions and billions of years old. That's some bullshit that Esau put out there. They know that when you go back and you research the history of man, it goes back about 5,000, almost 6,000 years now. All right, so in this lesson, Lord's will, it'll be edifying, get into some precepts, and bring out some of this information that these devils know and have been hiding, and how, it all ties in to their monetary system, which is all being fabricated or moved into a digital currency, digital inserts, by the punching in of keys and all that into a computer to set up the infrastructure for the mark of the beast, which is the microchip. So the first precept we're going to start off with is in the book of Ezekiel, the 28th chapter. We're going to start at the 3rd verse. It says, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. So the Lord is saying about these devils that they're wiser than Daniel. Now I meant to read Daniel 1 and 2, but I was trying to get the lesson going, and I forgot, because I wanted to just recap on the different things that the prophet Daniel and the 3 men that were with him, Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, to see what they what the scripture said about it, because I couldn't remember it like in detail. But they were very wise men from among Judah that were put into prominent positions. Daniel himself being made a president. To be able to be in that government or that position, you had to have been very wise, because the king, the kings like to be entertained. They like to have their women, and all that. But one thing a real king wants around him is counselors and men that are wise, that can help, with counsels and things of that nature, interpretation of dreams and all that stuff, when the time is needed. All right. So they like to surround themselves, just like when we were reading the book of Ezra, the first chapter the other day, and pretty much, King Ahasuerus was pretty much, he threw a feast, for all of his lords, the top men of the kingdom, the wisest of all men. So king wants to surround themselves with counselors, wise men, sages, which is the same as wise men, fancy way of saying wise men. So it says, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. And Daniel knew what? He knew many different things. He knew many mysteries, but he didn't fully understand everything that he wrote as far as prophecy was concerned. And that's where these devils, through their research, through their scholars and all that, and digging up archaeology and all that, they found out a lot of the prophecies of the book of Daniel and what they are today. They know about Daniel the 7th chapter. Any reputable scholar will tell you that Daniel the 7th chapter, the four beasts, were the Greeks, the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, the Middle Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, and the Roman Empire. So these devils have gone to the level of understanding things that Daniel didn't understand back then. And as far as history is concerned, and far as financial is concerned, because that is one of their biggest assets, is controlling the economy, controlling the finances. And that's why they turned around and made the dollar the world reserve currency, because they wanted to corner the market, And this is why it was 1790. I was just watching this, the Creature from Jekyll Island, which was a book written by G. Edward Griffin. But there was an individual that was interviewing him that was pretty much narrating some of the story or the history of the Federal Reserve and how it was set up. And it was set up to control everything. And the individual said that back in 1790, Meyer Amschel Bauer made that statement: "Give me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes the laws." Because pretty much, when it boils down to it, whoever controls the finance controls everything else. And that's why they've been slithering their way into, the monetary gain of, or the monetary foothold of America, so that they can control the world pretty much. So going back to Ezekiel 28:3, it says, "Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee." It says, "With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures." And that's how they've done it. They've been able to manipulate people, by controlling and creating money out of nothing. When you understand the whole dollar and all that, that's how you know that Jake don't know what real money is. You have your Floyd Mayweathers and your 50 cents and all them different individuals out there flashing that cash, like them racks, as if that's really, money. That's not money. It's just something that's used as currency, but it really has no value to it. Now, real money is gold and silver. When you read the Bible, the word for money, when you look at the translation, it goes back to the Hebrew word kasap, which means silver. This is real money. And that's what the individual said, that gold, this Bitcoin and all, that's not going to affect gold, because gold has been money for the last 5,000 years. So they understand. So what they did was they got up into a position in the so-called government, or made it sound like a governmental agency, the Federal Reserve, which is nothing more than a privately owned corporation, and set up these dollar bills and set up a way for them to be able to print money out of nothing, lend it to the people, and charge interest, which is the scriptures call usury. And that's what they did. So this is the book of Leviticus 19, and they don't have an excuse, because they have the Bible. They make people swear in on the Bible, but they don't follow the creed, and the instructions of this book. Leviticus 19:35, it says, "You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, in weight, or in measure." Yeah, so when you're dealing with money, when you're dealing with weights, measurements and things of that nature. Money, as far as money is concerned, as far as goods are concerned, you're not supposed to do unrighteousness in that. So by you know, charging somebody more for something that is not worth as much, you're pretty much ripping the people off. So that's unrighteousness. That's that bag of deceitful weights. Like you'll have like a weight set, as far as to put it on a scale to weigh out money, and it's supposed to be a 5 pound or 5 ounce or whatever weight, but the weight is really, either lighter or heavier depending on what you're trading in, and what you're doing is you're ripping the people off. So this Federal Reserve System is doing nothing more than ripping people off and putting them in more debt, because they understand that debt creates slaves. Let's get that real quick in the book of Proverbs, chapter 22. I mean, I wrote some precepts down, but I don't really have anything structured, so just, you know, um, you know, Lord's will, it'll be edifying. Proverbs 22:7, it says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." So the one that borrows becomes servant to the lender. You become their servant, their slave. And this is what they're doing. They're creating debt slaves. And that's why ultimately they want to give out that UBI, universal basic income, which is going to get people locked into the system, to pretty much make them a perpetual slave, so that once they have whatever they need to be in place and they implement the microchip, people are going to take it because they're going to want to eat, but those that take it will be destroyed. So going back to Leviticus 19:35, "You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall you have." So everything that you weigh out, as far as money is concerned, as far as goods are concerned, as far as buying and selling, it's supposed to be all done in righteousness, but they don't do that, and who do you think they get over on the most? They get over the most on the poor, and the poor is always jacked up. If you look at the scriptures in Proverbs, Psalms, and Ecclesiastes, it always makes a distinction between the poor and the rich, and how the rich are constantly oppressing the poor. Another precept came to mind. Let me write this down so we get to this. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, we'll get that after this. This is the book of Ecclesiastes 27. I started 1. "Many have sinned for a small matter, and he that seeketh for abundance will turn his eyes away." Yeah, because the scriptures speak about coveting gold and things of that nature. If you desire, or you covet to be rich, you're gonna do whatever you got to do to get those riches. That's why the scriptures say that for the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money itself, because money is a defense and money answereth all things. But the love of money is the root of all evil, because to get that money, people will do whatever they got to do to get it. And this is what these international banking families have done. They pretty much put the stranglehold on the financial, or on the finances of the world. And this is why you have the inflations and hyperinflations and certain dollar denominations around the world going bust, because of the monetary system in place is not just. The weights are not just. So it says, verse 2, "As a nail sticketh fast between the joining of the stones." So if you take a nail and you put it between two stones, and you hammer it down, it's going to be stuck in there, right? So it says, "As a nail sticketh fast between the joinings of the stones, so does sin stick close between buying and selling." And this is what these devils have done, in this buying and selling that they've done. So now let's go back to Ezekiel 28. I want to get another point out of there. and then move around from there. So going back to Ezekiel 28:4, it says, "With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches." See, so they've gotten riches by their wisdom and their understanding, but it's done by wrong. It's not done right. It says, "And has gotten gold and silver into thy treasures." See, so they've got gold and silver into their treasures because they understand beyond a shadow of a doubt that true riches, tangible true riches, are gold and silver, precious stones, so on and so forth. But the top two is gold and then silver. All right. It says, now check this out: "By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches." And you see these devils; they're pompous as hell. The scriptures speak about the pride of Esau. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to go to that word there for traffic in the book of Ezekiel 28 and 4. I'm sorry, 5. And the word there is rakalah. Rakalah. Merchandise, traffic, trade. Origin, past part of 87402. Pretty much means merchandise, traffic. Because if you have merchandise, in order for you to sell that merchandise, you have to what? You have to traffic it. You got a term called drug trafficking, so on and so forth. But these goods are being trafficked here, in America. And that's pretty much what this place is. That's what America is a land of traffic, which you're going to get that also. So the root word to that is rakal, to go about, meaning dubious. So to go about meaning what? To travel. And what's the main traveling that they're doing? They're doing travel mostly by ships in the seas. And those ships in the seas come to the different ports. They'll have containers with goods in it, merchandise in it, and then they'll ship it by truck to the different warehouses and the different stores around America and around the world. It says trafficker, trader, travel for trading, spice, merchant. So a merchant. Now let's go from there to the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel 17. Still in Ezekiel 17. Come on. Ezekiel 17, and let's see. This is the book of Ezekiel 17. It speaks about the eagle and the cedar, but we're just going to make this point here in the 4th verse. It says, "He cropped off the top of his young twigs and carried it into a land of traffic. He set it in the city of merchants." All right. So this is a land of traffic. How do you think America got so rich at one time? Because of the traffic that it did, all of the merchandise that came through here from all different nations. And they still come here. But America is not really being enriched by that anymore. Really, it's these nations that are being enriched, by those things. Now, there was a precept that came to mind I wanted to get. I can't think of what it is right now. So what I'll do is I'll go to that word there for traffic in Ezekiel 17 in the meantime. So Ezekiel 17 and 4, and the word there for traffic is the word Canaan, which is where you get the word Canaan. It means lowland, unknown, and it says merchant, trader. So this is the land of Canaan. This is the land of trading. The land that makes money. But the way they're doing it is they're doing it not by right. They're doing it, by all the wrong reasons. Let's go from there to Psalms, the 73rd chapter. And these devils, they've been searching. You got to remember, Esau is wise, because the scriptures say that they're wiser than Daniel, because the Most High gave him that inspiration. Just like the Lord gives us inspiration to look into different things, the Lord on the left-hand side gives these devils the inspiration to do what they do. And that's why they're so wise when it comes to wickedness, when it comes to financial things, when it comes to certain other things, because the Lord gave them that, but they just don't use it right, because they were created to be the wicked. Psalm 73:3, it says, "For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked." And who is the wicked? Esau, so-called white man, so you could understand. "For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men." Yeah, because at one time, Esau was not doing bad. They were doing real good. They were at the height of their kingdom. But now they're in the waning years of that kingdom. It says, "Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence." So pride compasseth them about as a chain. Just like you wear a chain, a necklace. What is the purpose of wearing a necklace? For other people to see it and compliment it. So that's what the pride is like to them, like wearing jewelry. They flaunt it. It says violence covered them as a garment. Yeah, because the way that they got their riches is what? Is through violence. The scriptures speak about them getting the fatness of the earth by the sword, and that was a blessing that was given to them by Isaac. So now let's go real quick to Ecclesiastes 10:8. It says, "Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another." So the riches that you see these devils have now are going to be transferred over to us. You can read about that in Isaiah, the 60th chapter, where it speaks about, sucking the breasts of kings, and, sucking the breasts of the Gentiles, and sucking the milk of kings, meaning, taking their riches back, because those riches belong to us. So what they have is something called ill-gotten gains. And ill-gotten gains, it tells you, by the name, how they got it. It was ill-gotten. So if it's ill-gotten, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to lose it. Let's see. I don't think that's going to come up here on this offline. Nope. All right. So moving on, let's go back to Psalm 73 and verse 7. "Their eyes stand out with fatness, they have more than heart could wish." And you see that. And how did they get that? How did they get to the point where they're at? Because of their treachery, because of the manner in which they did it. Let's go real quick to Micah, the 6th chapter. Micah chapter 6 and verse 10. It says, just bear with me one second. It says, "Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked?" Yeah, they are. They still have the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked. The scriptures speak about not oppressing the hireling in his wages, and that's all they do. Even when they pay him with these dollars, people think that they're going to work and get paid. Even people that feel that they got a decent job and they get, whatever, $15, $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 a week, however, whatever it is, they think that they're doing good, but they're being ripped off, because what they're being paid for, they're not being compensated for their labor. They're being given debt notes. And that's why when you have a debt note, you can't get out of that situation, because you're constantly chasing a debt with a debt. So you never really become debt free, And that's why when they sent Benjamin Franklin over to England, he saw that there was a lot of poor people in the streets, beggars and tramps, I believe they called them. And he was saying, we don't have that problem in the 13 colonies. And they said, well, why not? He said, because it has something called the colonial script, which is a money that they traded amongst each other that wasn't taxed. You see? And that's how England wanted to get in to this financial over here to be able to extort that money. And that's what all them different wars were all about. Like what's his name? Michael Rivero said that he did I think it was about a half hour long, a little documentary, mini documentary, I guess you could call it, or documentary. All wars are bankers' wars, and that's how they got over here. And that's how the first and second central banks got here. That's how the Federal Reserve got here, which is actually the third central bank. But they made it appear like a governmental agency by putting the word federal on it, because the other ones that they put in place, the other central banks, they only had a 20-year charter, and once the charter was finished, they got rid of it because they saw how devastating the effect that it had on the economy and inflation and debt and all of that. So they finally got that Federal Reserve in there. It says, are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the scant measure that is abominable? Now, when you look up that word scant, it means, let me see, the word scant, number 7, is measure of leanness. And that measure of leanness is abominable. We just read in the law that you're not supposed to do unrighteousness and meat yard and weights and measures. And that's what they've done. All right, it says, verse 11, shall I count them pure with the wicked balances? Yeah, and these Federal Reserve notes have wicked balances, because even in their own constitution, it says that there's nothing that's supposed to be money except for coins, gold or silver coins. And that's why at one time you had the silver certificates and you had the gold certificates, because you were able to get when you had the dollar said, they were silver or gold certificates, and whatever amount it was, you were able to take that to the bank and get however many ounces of gold or silver were on that note. But you can't do that anymore, because these dollars are really not backed by silver or gold. They have other backings now, but the real money, even in the scriptures, is gold and silver, but even in their so-called constitution is gold and silver coins. So they don't even follow their own rules and regulations and laws. So what makes you think they're going to follow the Most High's rules and regulations? All right, so let's see. It goes on to say, for the rich men thereof are full of violence. That's right. And the rich men represent these international bankers. For the rich men thereof are full of violence. And how do you think they get this? How do you think they get the money that they get? You have something called an economic hitman. Economic hitman, his job is to go into a country, persuade the leaders of that country to, by paying them, to take the money and to pretty much sell out their country, so that America could get in there, get all the biddings, and take over the resources and the infrastructure of that country. Spare me 1 second. And the infrastructure of that country. And what happens if they refuse? Well, what they do is they send actual hitmen. I believe they call them jackals. And then what do they do? They enter in there and they assassinate that individual and set up a puppet leader, as they've done many times before in the past. Why? Because it's all about violence with them, because they want the whole pie. They're not satisfied with a piece of it. They want the whole thing. So it says, for the rich men thereof are full of violence, and the inhabitant thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. And that ties into the book of Habakkuk. With the violence that they bringing upon these different nations. You know, and not even speaking on the violence they brought upon the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. But let's go from there to Habakkuk 2:5. It says, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man." So not only is he proud, the transgression by wine is what? The different philosophies that they push upon the world, beginning with that plantation Christianity, that democracy, so on and so forth, and which pretty much is all nothing more than white supremacy, so-called white supremacy. It says, "Neither keepeth at home," and you know that they don't keep at home. That's why they're everywhere on the planet, in everybody's business. That goes back to what the Lord said to Cain: "A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth." And that's what they do. They're travelers, merchants, you know, and they'll go from place to place, you know, not staying home, going from place to place to do what? To gain, the world, access of the world. What do you think Alexander was doing? The only reason why he couldn't go any further than he did, well, first of all, because the Lord put a stop on it. But then his men got tired of, they just wanted to go back home and enjoy the spoils, and he wanted to just keep going on and conquering, because that's the spirit of Esau. They could never have enough, as it says in I don't know if it's this chapter or back in Psalm 73. It says, "Who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied." There you go, right there. So they cannot be satisfied no matter how much they have, and getting these riches come with a lot of underhanded, wicked shit. It says, "And cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." And this is why they're trying to bring their so-called New World Order, this agenda of theirs, because they want everyone under the palm of their hands. And this is another reason why they create wars, to decimate the population, of the working class, so that it can even out the balance, so to speak. Because when you have, and their reasoning, when you have too many people, what happens is all these people are fighting for the same job. And that's where you get a lot of homelessness and unemployment, so on and so forth. So by them creating these wars, that kills off a big majority, or a vast majority of people, or a bunch of people, so that it can balance out the workforce, so to speak. These people are demented in their thoughts, man, and the way they do things. It says, "Shall not all these take up a parable against him," meaning all these nations, "and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his." So they're increasing that which is not theirs, but then making it seem like it's cool. Like even G. Edward Griffin was speaking on this. He said that the way that these devils got around with the Federal Reserve was they will have the politicians write laws to where the people are thinking the money is theirs, but it's not really theirs. It really belongs to the bankers. So every time they want to print more money, guess who is falling back on? Indirectly, it's falling back on the citizens, through taxes, different taxations. It says, "How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay." And they're in debt. When you look up that word thick clay, ibatyat, it means thick, heavy debt. And that's what this dollar, or this Federal Reserve System, does. It puts people into heavy debt. That's why the debt clock, I believe, is almost 30 trillion, which is more like 200 or 300 trillion. Why? Because interest keeps on compounding, which is usury, and the scriptures speak about not lending upon usury. So as it keeps on compounding, what do you think is going to happen? The debt is going to keep going up and up and up, and you're not going to be able to pay off that debt. You're not going to be able to pay off that debt, because you cannot pay a debt with a debt. Eventually something's going to give. So let's go from there before we read on anymore. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 5. 4. It says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. A proverb is what? It's a taunting, ridiculing them. And pretty much what we're doing when we out here in the streets, speaking and teaching, we're pretty much taunting these devils through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, that the Lord is going to deal with them and they're going to fall. So it says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. And when you look up these terms, let me see, number 3 for golden city, let's see. Or exactress of gold. You know what it means to be an exactress of gold? Matter of fact, let's look up the word exact. Look it up in the scriptures and look it up in the offline dictionary. Exact. Let's see if they give me the right definition. Claim as due or just. See? So it's a claim. So to exact means to claim. Take as undesirable consequences of some event or state of affairs, marked by strict and particular and complete accordance with facts. So the point that you have different definitions, but the main one we're dealing with is claim as due or just. So you're exacting. So it's the exactors of gold, because they're claiming the gold and the precious metals of the people, and giving them in turn what? They're giving them dollars that are worthless, that are created out of nothing. When you go back to, I believe it was like 1934, you had Franklin Delano Roosevelt that took the gold out of circulation. He made it illegal for citizens to own gold. They had to turn their gold in, and then they got $20 on the ounce, and then not too long after that, it went up to $35 an ounce. So he almost doubled the price of gold. But why was that? Because of the devaluing of the dollar. See, that's what most people don't understand economics. They think because they got dollars in their pockets that they're doing good, but they don't understand how the economy actually works and what real money is. Like if you were to give Jake, this dog is funny. If you was to give Jake a choice, oh man, that's funny. That's hilarious. That dog thinks he's human, And if you were to give Jake a choice of, giving him a rack or giving him some gold coins, what do you think he's gonna take? He's gonna take the rack because he's thinking that that's real money. And they said, man, what am I gonna do with that? So they're more likely to take the dollars than they would the coin if they gave them a choice between the two. Let's see, what was I looking up? Okay, that was it on that. All right, so now let's look up the word exact in the scriptures, and let's see what we can come up with. How am I going to do this? Is there a search on this thing? Exact. Okay, we got just bear with me 1 second. Okay, let's go to Deuteronomy 15 and then we'll get it. Deuteronomy 15. Forgot about that scripture there. Deuteronomy 15, and we're going to start at verse 1. And see, that's why we tell you that these devils have the book, but they don't follow the instructions of the book. Okay? Just switching the camera over because the wind is coming from another angle. Deuteronomy 15:1. At the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release. And this is where Esau does get that. I don't know if they still do that, but they used to, if you had credit card debt after 7 years, they would wipe the credit clean. I don't know if they still do that or not, but they got that from the scriptures. It says, and this is the manner of the release. Every creditor, which is what? One that lends money. Let me see, there's a 1 there for creditor. what does it say? Master of the lending of his hand. And that's why it says that the borrower is servant to the lender. It says, and this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Yeah, so that you were supposed to, because the poor, when they were poor, they really had, they didn't have the means to pay. That's why every 7 years you would have, the year of release. And then you would have the year of Jubilee, which was every 50 years. So that people didn't, so that Jake didn't have to stay poor. It was a cycle, right? So it says, of a foreigner thou mayest exact it again, but that which is thine with thy brother thine hand shall release. So now let's go from there. I want to look up that word exact, see what it says in Deuteronomy 15:2, and the word for exact is nagash. It says to press, drive, oppress, exact, exert, demanding, pressure. And that's what the scriptures say. It speaks about the golden city, which is the exactress of gold. How have you ceased? Here it is, you oppress the people. You are financially oppressing, because oppression can come, by stressing somebody. It could come financially. It could come by you beating on somebody. There's different forms of oppression. And one of the worst oppressions, besides the physical torture, is monetarily. Because you're driving somebody, to the poorhouse, so to speak. It says to press, drive, to exact. Drive, taskmaster, ruler, oppressor, tyrant, lord, exactor of tribute. See? An exactor of tribute. So when we read Isaiah, the 14th chapter, what we're reading in essence is, it says, how have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased. So how has this place that put people in such an oppressive state financially ceased? And this is what we're speaking and telling them. And you might say, well, why is this important? Well, because it's in the scriptures. We got to tell this devil where he's going and why he's going there, for the purpose and the reason why he's going there. How it all came to this, to where we're at right now. All right, so now let's go from there. I'm sorry, there's one more verse. It says, the Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. Yeah, so the Lord is the one that's taking you down. First by his mouth through his prophets, and afterwards by the brightness of his coming, which are the missiles and the lasers from the chariots. And they will use it, because the Lord is going to make them use it. Now, let's see what else we got. Let me see, is there anything else in Psalm 73? Let's go back to Psalm 73 and 7. It says, their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. That's right. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. Yeah, and we just read about a certain type of oppression, dealing with, putting people in a financial bind. It says they set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Yeah, because they say that they're the Most High, that they're Yahushai, so on and so forth. It says, therefore his people return hither, and waters of a full cup are wrung out to them. Yeah, because they benefit the most out of all these people on the planet, because they take people's resources. And who's the one that benefit? This whole lockdown with the so-called COVID thing, right? Who benefited the most? The super elite, the super rich. Where you had in the last, last 6 months or so, 5-6 months, billionaires became trillionaires. Never has someone got rich like that before, that quick. So it's the same old scenario, the rich oppressing the poor, exacting from them. It says, and they say, how does the Most High know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Yes, the Most High does know. Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. See? So they are the ungodly that prosper in the world, and they increase in riches. And the way they increase in riches is by what they call ill-gotten gains. So now going back to, what was the other precept? Okay, let's go back to Habakkuk. Let's go back to Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 7. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? And that's why, to a certain degree, these nations right now are really spoiling you. They're really getting you back, for what you've done to them. Because we're at the end, man. How has the exactress of gold ceased, man? This golden city. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. And you're gonna have a problem, Esau. You're gonna have a real serious problem, my man. Because you got a lot to answer for. You got a lot of people that want your hide, man. You got a lot to pay for. It says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, see? And for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. And we just read about the violence, and how they manipulate the leaders and the people of these different countries and use violence to take their goods from them. And then you have the nerve to ask why people revolt, people get upset, people get mad. They did all this shit together. They stole Gad's land, they raped the women, they killed the men. They did all kind of shit, fucked up shit to men. And then when Gad got revenge on them, then they call them a bunch of cowards. They call them savages. Well, how is somebody a savage when all they're doing is defending themselves and fighting for what's theirs, and you're trying to take it from them? So how can you label that as savage? But then if you do it, that's benevolence. You're brave. You're a patriot. But then when somebody else does it, they're cowards. Bunch of fucking hypocrites. It says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for violence, and for the violence of the land, and of the city, and of all that dwell therein. It says, woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high. Yeah, and that's why you're doing it, so you can be financially stable. Which you don't need any more money. You got more than heart could wish, but you can never have enough. That he may be delivered from the power of evil. Yeah, because there's evil coming, bad times, so that you can escape the bad times. But that's going to turn to your hurt, because you got the power over everything on the earth, and now the Lord is coming to judge you for that. It says, thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Yeah, because eventually this whole system is going to be destroyed, because the Lord is going to destroy it. It says, woe to him that buildeth the town with blood, and establisheth the city by iniquity. And what do you think is going to happen to a person like that, or a nation like that? They're going to be judged. That's why it says, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and should be found no more at all. All right, now let's go from there. Let's see what this says here back in Ezekiel 28. And let's jump down to the 17th verse, see what that says. It says, thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. See? Sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Because your throne is about to be taken. Yahushua is coming back to claim all of the kingdoms of the planet, to be put under his feet. It says, I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Yeah, and everyone is going to see you. That's why it says in Isaiah 14, is this the man that did shake kingdoms? because you will be judged, man. It's going to come out beyond the shadow of a doubt how much of a low life scumbag and how much of a nobody you really are. You know, and that's gonna be that's gonna be something, man. Because everybody on the planet wants to be like you because they think that you're the Most High. You deceived the world, and now you're about to be put down, put back in your place, and shown to the world who you really are, the base man that you really are, the lowest of the low. It says, therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, which because this fire is going to be this nuclear fire. It shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. And that's going to be devastating. And that's going to be a hell of an event. It's going to be the greatest destruction that ever happened since the flood. All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror. And let me see the word terror there. 7 says terrors is just plural. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be anymore. Yeah, because once you go down, people are going to be horrified. You know, alas, because it's going to be so devastating. And people are going to, the other nations are going to be crying because they're not going to be making money like they were. Not because they give a damn about you. It's because they know that they're not going to be able to make the money that they used to when you were in power. Because they were able to sell all their delicacies and all that stuff here in America. You know, and be made rich. And that's why they tolerate your bullshit, because they're making money from you. And that's why the scriptures say that the kings of the earth have committed fornication with this harlot, America. All right, so let's go from there to Revelation. We're going to end it off here. Revelation 18. And I'll start at 12. I'll start at 11. Well, 10. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is that judgment come. So it's only going to take 1 hour for your judgment. You know, and how is that going to happen? Well, those missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, they don't take that long. The average one takes half hour. I heard today, they said that you have some that could even get here within 15 minutes. You see? So it's only going to take an hour to devastate this whole place. And you see how, when they show you in these different movies, how fast that fire moves to different cities. You know, and that's just a simulation based off of, you know, the different tests that they've done with different hydrogen bombs and things of that nature. So just imagine when those bombs hit, man, the noise of the archers. It says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. So it's letting you know why these merchants are going to be crying. Not because you were blown up, but because they're not going to make the money that they were by selling their merchandise here. This place is a costly place. You know? There's no other place on the planet really like this place, where you could sell your wares for so high, so expensive. It says, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and of linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all fine wood and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble. And all you got to do is go throughout of America. Even in the New York, in the Manhattan, you know, the financial district. You go through all the different streets at a certain point, you know, down in Midtown, actually further down, and you'll see they have everything that you ever want. You got wholesale, you got retail, everything, man, from incense to Persian rugs to everything. It says, and cinnamon and odor, yeah, they got spices, you know, the different types of rice, beans, and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. And that's why here, this is the biggest place where men sell their soul, here in America. It says, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, see, the merchants are who? The different businessmen that are making money off you, these shipmasters. It says, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her, see, shall stand afar off for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, yep, that golden city, the exactress of gold, and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. So 1 hour, man, the Lord's going to do easy work on you, Esau. And every shipmaster and all company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off. Yeah, because that is the main way of trading, is through the seas. That's why these devils messed up the so-called Panamanians back in, what was it, 92, because the charter was about to end. I'm not sure if it was 98 or 2000. I can't remember the year. Their charter was about to end, so they had to get up in there so that they can get a foothold back to keep that region, because you had something known as the Panama Canal, and that's a big money making venture. So Esau had to get up in there, because that's how they do. They weigh the violence of their hand in the earth. It says, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Yeah, because where are they going to sell their wares now and be able to sell it that expensive? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her what? Her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. That's right, 1 hour. It says, rejoice over her, thou heavens, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High hath avenged you on her. And so these guys are talking about just be here for the long haul. They have no clue or idea what the hell is going on. These are low IQ individuals that don't want to hasten the day because they're comfortable. They're settled on their lees. Because the scriptures say when we see these things, we're supposed to be rejoicing, man. Ain't supposed to be, thinking about the long haul. And that was, we've spoke about this before. You got these guys that are hunkering down for the long haul. We're supposed to hasten the day. The captive exile hasteneth that he may be loosed. All right. So it goes on to say, it says, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. This is talking about America, Babylon the Great. So with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.